Welcome, listeners, to www.ironradio.org, the website and podcast for all things strength sports and sports nutrition. Thanks for listening.
Good morning, everybody. This is Bill Stevens reporting live from the SWIS Conference 2023 in Columbus, Ohio. I am a strength coach, powerlifter, Highland Games athlete, and youth football coach.
Right on.
This is Coach Terrell and at Strength Guild in Kansas City. I specialize in all things strong.
All right. And this is Lonnie Lowry. I'm a nutritionist, consults for the food industry, academia, stuff like that. I've been a professor for 20 years, competitive bodybuilder for a long time. Not anymore. Former competitive bodybuilder. Also from Ohio, which is where, Phil, we're not usually in the same state.
Yeah.
In fact, last year, I know a lot of your crew crashed at my apartment.
We did. Yeah, they did.
My Columbus apartment. I am not in Columbus anymore, but it's amazing to me that SWIS, the SWIS Symposium, is already upon us again.
I know. The year flew by.
Yeah, so what's going on there? I mean, let's just talk about kind of special episode, like what's going on at SWIS this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the usual thing for anybody who hasn't been here. The hard part about it, I think, is that this conference in general is, well, I guess it's like the ISSN a little bit. It's picking what room you want to do because there's so many talks going on at once.
Oh,
you have to pick and choose because what the way they have it laid out is there's like a rehab room, a nutrition room, a strength and conditioning room. So you might have a talk that you want to hear on strength and conditioning going on while you have a talk on nutrition, so you have to choose. But the cool thing is that this one, what they do is anybody who signs up, also they film it. So if you want to do one, you'll get all the film of the talks afterwards. So the only thing I suppose you'd miss is the ability to ask a question live. But
right.
So you're able to miss certain talks and go back and listen to them if you had two talks you wanted to go to at once. But I think this one, probably compared to the rest, is just the amount of international presence there is. So, like I said, I'm here running a booth for Wendler. He talked yesterday, and I'd say at least 50% of our people that came to the booth and got stuff were from other countries. So we had people as far away as Poland, and a lot of Canadians, which SWIS was traditionally in Canada,
right,
until the COVID thing happened. So you have a lot of people coming from there, but hell, I've probably only met one person that's actually from Ohio in the whole thing. So it's very much primarily people traveling. But other than that, for me, it's mainly the networking. You know, I get to come and see, like Ed Cohn's always here. Me and him sat down, and he sat at the booth with me for about 45 minutes yesterday, and we just caught up on everything. And of course, Dave and his whole crew, and Jim, and just all that stuff. So
yeah,
it's been a good time.
I don't know those guys as much as you do, but I've always liked Dave. I've always thought Dave was a highly intelligent dude.
Yeah.
I've always liked Ed as well. He probably doesn't even know that, but I admire the guy. He's just, to me, he's still the Michael Jordan of powerlifting. I kind of grew up in an era where he was, it. In a lot
I got
of
a
ways.
funny story out of him yesterday from one of the first SWIS he did, and it was apparently the first SWIS that Jim and Dave did, and Jim hates flying, and apparently Dave talked him into flying. He said, well, don't worry. All you got to remember is you're going to be the strongest motherfucker on that plane. And and Jim walked on the plane, and apparently Ed had a layover in Columbus, and he walks on, and Jim says, the first person he sees is Ed Cohn. He's like, you motherfucker, you lied to me. I'm not the strongest son of a bitch on this plane.
I'm not the strongest.
Because this was Ed in his prime, of course.
Right,
so,
right, sure.
Like, God damn it, you lied. So Ed was cracking up over that, but so it always amazes me with Ed how he's built. Like, he shook my hand yesterday, and I'm a foot taller than Ed, and his hand just wraps around mine. But yeah.
I guess I've heard that's one of the reasons he was just gifted, but like powerlifting, the grip, right?
Yeah, and that's what he said. Yeah, for his size, it's his size of his hands for a short person. So.
Let me, just for listeners who aren't familiar, let me read a couple things from the website. So And people are like, well, what's Swiss? The SWIS Symposium, yeah, started in Canada with Ken Kanak, and now Dave Tate's a big part of this with Elite FTS. In fact, the Elite FTS website has most of the info. I looked at the Swiss website, the Swiss.ca website, and it's just a placeholder. It's got a lot of that kind of lorem ipsum, Latin stuff, like put this here, put this here. So it looks like it's being built, but the Elite FTS has a lot of stuff. It is in the eastern area of Columbus. Like I said, I used to live there. It's at the Hilton there, right?
Yep.
But it says attention strength athletes, coaches, trainers, and practitioners looking to level up your skills. Now, this conference, a lot of networking, like you said, I think it's one of the primary draws, just the industry people that are there. It says topics include warming up, strength, hypertrophy, recovery, rehab, $547 to $1,400 to attend. So unless you're an insider like Phil, he's just down there at Jim's booth. It says, who is it for? Strength coaches, gym owners, personal trainers, powerlifters and bodybuilders, CrossFitters, right? And then also, people that are on sort of the healthcare side, PTs and doctors, medical doctors, nutritionists, athletic trainers. It does say the economy is wreaking havoc across the country. So basically it's a good time to double down on networking. And like you said, that seems to be the key there, right? I mean, you're an industry veteran, so this says you can learn something as a beginner or a veteran. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I'm guessing you're there mostly to network and just kind of hang out with Jim.
Yeah, that's 100% why I'm here. And, with my other work I do, like most of these people are my clients. But, that's definitely a big part of it. And I think it's like most symposiums or stuff. Like a lot of the gyms you get are outside of the actual talks. It's out in the hallway talking to people like Jim and whatever. They'll go up and talk for an hour, but then they're in the hallway talking to people for 6 hours.
Right.
And you can approach them and come up and talk to them. There's people here. There's booths where they're working on doing chiropractic stuff in the hallway and things like that. Like Stuart McGill will be out here working on people's backs and things like that. So it's a lot of that is where you get it. And then they do long lunches. They have an after thing. And, really that's what I tell people. It's take part in all of that stuff. You get things out of the talks, but the talks are like, Lonnie, when you have, I think they get 50 minutes. There's only so much you can cover. They really, you get Jim up there talking for 50 minutes and he scratches the surface on his knowledge, So it's if you want more, then you approach them in the hallway and dig a little deeper and things like that. That's where
No, I remember I gave a talk for Ken at Swiss. God, it was like '02 or something. I mean, just to give everybody an example, I mean, the people in the hallway were like Lee Haney, I mean, and Ed Cohn was there, and all that kind of stuff. But in-person events are just so big. I'm super painfully introverted, and I just don't like online stuff. You might think I dig that, because I don't have to go forced socialize, but I much rather, after the pandemic, just go somewhere like this and just talk to people, talk shop, say hi, that kind of stuff. In fact, Jarrell, we were talking before I hit the record button. Have you ever done online stuff, or what's your thought, like online versus in person?
Talking about like networking or like the Zoom call type thing?
Well, I mean, just conferences. Have you ever done like a continuing education or some kind of conference online, or do you just always go in person, or what are your preferences?
Oh man, I prefer in person, and I'm very introverted myself. But I don't really like the online conference stuff. Like I hate sitting on my computer or whatever for however long, and I always end up like trying to do something else. It just feels weird. Like going to the conferences is always my preference, but I guess the only ones I go to, like I shouldn't even say quote unquote go to, but the only ones I do online right now are like marketing related, like doing, learning more about advertising and things like that. But I don't really enjoy any part of that, to be honest. But
well, that makes sense. All online. I mean, going to a marketing symposium online is smart because pretty much all marketing is online now. So,
influencers and stuff. ads that you run. All the universities are trying to run ads online and stuff instead of just traditional stuff. It does look like there's a business focus at SWIS. Here it says these speakers, and there's a big list. And I recognize a lot of these names, not all. I'm kind of tangential to the industry these days, to the pure strength stuff. But I mean, I recognize Matt Wenning, and I see Eric Serrano is there, right? Who's a medical doctor, and Jim and J.L. Holdsworth. I've seen him speak before. I really like him. A lot of big names on here, of course. Stan Efferding, and it says the topics include lower back injury and prevention, recovery, rehab exercise selection, coaching language. That's interesting. Blood flow restriction. That's still a topic. That's not going away. That's been around for a good, I don't know, to me, 12 years, 15 years. I don't know. It probably goes beyond that. Hormone optimization. Steroids. Now that's interesting, right? I'm talking about some endocrinology stuff. Breathing protocols, advanced training, warm-ups, how to leverage nutrition, pain management, as well as business. So have you seen much business stuff, Phil? I know you only got to see like one or two talks, right?
Yeah, I didn't go to anything business. The only business I've seen is behind the scenes stuff. So, which arguably might be better, but I'm right in the midst of it with all these people. But no, I didn't. I generally don't go to any of that stuff. But a lot of the prehab, rehab, back work, there's a ton of that going on. Like a lot of that's happening always. So, yeah.
What's the booth experience like? I remember working booths like at the Arnold Classic when I was like the science advisor for a company. Maybe just share with everybody if you could, like, what's the booth experience like? Is it different from years past, or like, what are you doing? Are you just answering questions, or what are you doing?
The good thing is this is not nearly as large as something like the Arnold. So you're not just force feeding people through. There's not like a line of 300 people at your booth where you're like trying to be kind to them, but rush them along to get to the other 600 people. So you get a lot more time to talk to people. You get personal with them and things like that. You have time to you just sit there and really dig and let them dig and talk. And a lot of explaining like Jim's work and things like that. So we have time for that. And a lot more time to chat, at these type of things. Because you're not, like I said, you'll have 5 people at your booth at one time, not 150. So, and there's not nearly as many booths. So there's probably, maybe 20 total.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of neat because we get breaks too. Because like at the Arnold, basically you're just on all day. So what we got going on is they have almost an hour per talk and then a half an hour between talks. So basically we're on slotted for a half an hour. We just get bombarded for a half an hour and then everybody disappears again into the talks. So we get nice breaks. And for my end of the stuff, then that's when like Ed comes and sits down and we chat and catch up on things. And I work with Dave and Jim and things like that on other work we do together. So we have time to do all that. And so, yeah.
Right. Hey, everybody. Iron Radio is back and in an expanded way. What can you expect? Well, first, you can get it simulcast every week on the nutritionradio.org network as well as on the original podcast. It'll appear regularly on iTunes, Spotify, and all your favorite podcasting sites. We have a new Iron Radio / Nutrition Radio Facebook page as well. Please check us out. We're even backed up on YouTube. Second, please tell your friends who are longtime loyal listeners that they may see emails that share just the episode link and the show notes. This is a new thing, and we hope it will build community. Third, if you were a supporting member in the past, we may prompt you to resume through PayPal, but we will confirm each and every donor before reinstating that membership category. We'll never just restart your $4 auto payments without agreement from you. And of course, we will accept new members moving forward as well. Starting back slowly and honorably is the goal. And lastly, expect the sister show Nutrition Radio to expand into once weekly 45 to 60-minute episodes with guest co-hosts covering the same nerdy nutrition news that's been broadcast for a few months now in daily 10-minute clips. We hope that an expanded presence will get you the news, education, banter, and guests that's made Iron Radio's community so loyal from the start. You are appreciated. Yeah, there's got to be an ideal, like, optimum number of people where you can get stuff done. I've always actually liked that as well, like medium-sized events where there's enough people to matter, But like you said, you're not politely saying, move along.
No, yeah, and that's like if you want to talk to Ed at this event, there might be 4 people walking up to him. There's not a line, where it's that photo op thing, come up, take a weird picture, move along. You actually have time at something like this to talk to him and spend some time. And and let's be honest, a lot of that might be the price point. It's not a cheap event, so there won't be 10,000 people here.
There won't be goobers.
The price point, just like we talked about this on forums and stuff. Just by having a forum with a $5 price, gets the shitbags out of there. So
right, yeah. I hear that Elon Musk is trying to do that with X, with Twitter. He's talking about new people are going to have to pay just $1 just to keep, basically make everybody a little bit more dedicated and serious instead of just being goofballs.
But that's what you go to Twitter for. Be goofy.
I guess so. Well, if you're already on Twitter, I think you're okay there. But yeah, it's a good point because I remember that's the first time I heard about it when Phil brought that up. Like, if you just make people pay, not only does it help keep the bots out and stuff like that, at least in theory, but it would also keep schmucks from just trolling because they've actually hooked up their bank account to you, and paid a little bit, even if it's just tiny.
It's like Jim's personal forum. I think it's now $50 a year or $5 a month, but it moderates itself. There is no bots and things like that because they won't pay $5. There's a lot of signups, but they never finish the $5 pay to come in and actually see things. So just that alone, and then that allows him to just spend on time there and answer real questions.
Right. Yeah. I'm looking at some of the topics here. Some of the stuff that looks pretty advanced. Like I don't know if beginners should even look at some of this stuff, to be honest. Serrano's talking about, what is this, intravenous drip therapy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's hardcore for energy and supplement protocols. Like, wow, that's for like healthcare professionals or something, or at least people who understand their physiology. Steroid panel. Wow.
Yep. Yeah,
because you don't usually get on that. Yeah. So often people at least historically, they don't want to talk about it,
Yep.
And yet you are starting to see some people who do this. Even at the ISSN, you're starting to see occasional people. Guillermo Escalante, for example, he'll talk about that stuff occasionally. Pre-competition nutrition. It's a good point, because when I looked at the price tag, I thought, God, that's an awful lot. But like you said, you're paying for access to these people. You'll probably actually get to speak to them.
You do. And I think, like you got onto, you go to some of the other conferences, and it's very much more, I would put this one, the knowledge shared on this one is definitely less beginner and more advanced. It's kind of like the ISSN. So what you're going to do, you're going to go to a talk and get a very focused talk on a small part of a topic. Not just like Jim doesn't go in there and explain what 531 is, like the broad concept of it. It's going to be, here's what I do with, senior high school kids that are getting ready to go to college. Like, it's very, that's the talk. It's a very focused, in-depth talk for an hour is what you got going on here. Low back injuries and stuff like that. And it's not just whole body, like, here's what we need to do to rehab in general.
Yeah.
It's here's what happens. So, the talks are very much more focused and in-depth.
Well, as an example, Ed Cohn, Advanced Powerlifting Workshop Accessory Exercise Selection. Like, that's not for beginners, you know.
Exactly.
And honestly, that's the kind of stuff you want. You got to go to the top for that stuff. I don't want to hear Joe Schmo talk about his accessory movements necessarily, And
I know Ed's is very hands-on. So his is they have 10 or 12 racks set up in his room. So he's going to have people come up and we're going to do it, is what they do. And Dr. Ken helps him with that. So basically, Ken takes the questions and Ed takes people up. And it's like, here's what we're doing. Okay, that's what you got going on. This is what you need to work on. Here's how to do it. Type of thing.
Jarrell, have you been to SWIS at all?
Yeah, I was there. Was it last year?
Was it last year? Because I didn't see you guys. I know a lot of you guys crashed in my apartment, I think. Were you? I don't know if you were one of them.
No, I wasn't there. I stayed
I wasn't even there.
Whatever that other hotel was in Ohio.
Got it.
Yeah,
But
he
yeah,
wanted.
I'm
Yeah, he
there.
was down with me by Elite FTS. I always stay down the road in London by Jim and
Yeah,
Dave. So
London. Yeah. But what do you think about it, Jarrell? Like, what's your impression of Swiss?
I mean, so I only went to a few like talks that I like chose to go to, and otherwise I was like sitting in there. I was basically the timekeeper or whatever. So,
Oh,
um,
okay.
but I enjoyed it. I like it. And like Phil said, I mean, I more so appreciate the, in between stuff, like talking to folks off script, essentially. A lot of the scripted stuff, at least the stuff that I saw when they're, speaking, is stuff that I had, seen or experienced before with a lot of the guys that I like follow, essentially. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I didn't get to go to any of like the kind of, I don't know, more fringe ones or interesting ones, so I couldn't say. So I wasn't necessarily like a participant or anything like that. I was just kind of there keeping time. I remember one dude was like just completely ignoring the time. It was just like trying to bulldoze it. I remember that. And he was talking about, I want to say it was like COVID stuff. He was talking about like COVID, like supplemental protocols for COVID or something like that. Like, so it was like, vitamin C or whatever. But he's going on and on. He was taking a long time.
yeah, I can tell you just from talking to people here, a lot of them have enjoyed the. There's a panel room, so you got the training room, nutrition room, treatment and rehab room where it's very specified topics, and then they have a room that's panels. Like Jim's was him and three other people, and that room is strictly ask questions, get answers, and then the panel answers them. And they're able to just basically they're not coming in with a script. They're coming in and you lead them. And it seems like a lot of people like that from what I've talked to, because then you get more. If as long as you're one of the people who gets a question answered, you get targeted answers for your specific topic by a panel of people and different opinions on it. So
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the testimonials on here, and I don't want to make this episode a commercial for Swiss, of course, but this is just kind of echoing that, or at least related to what you said. It says, this weekend far exceeded my expectations. Having been similar to events like NSCA, I found Swiss to be just as, if not more educational from an academic standpoint, while also being engaging and feeling more like a community of strength professionals. That was last November after last year's. Yeah, so it does seem to be that kind of thing. I can tell you, like, just networking, I'd love to put faces to a lot of these names, right? Like, a few people, I can picture them in my mind, like J.L. Holdsworth or Jim or Eric Serrano. I've seen these guys before. I know what they look like. Some of these people, I don't, So it'd be nice just to be able to, I don't know what they look like, put a face to a name kind of thing.
no, that's the last year I got a lot out of the talks. I was in the I had a different role last year. I wasn't a booth babe. I was helping run the strength room. So I heard every talk in that room, and it was good. Um, like I said, the only thing that hurt was a lot of times you got done with your hour and they still had more to say, but then you just track them down outside. That's the good thing about this place. They don't just disappear in general after their talk is over. They have that half an hour between them, and people will stay in there and talk to them, and then you can follow them out in the hallway and engage.
Yeah, it does say, I see some of these things, they talk about how well coordinated it was and organized the event was and everything. A lot of really positive reviews on here. Dave Tate posted some of these. He didn't put names with all of them for kind of confidentiality reasons, I think. But yeah, I have not been to Swiss in a long, long time. But it's nice to see after the pandemic, we're still kind of crawling back. This talks about how the economy is still crushed and everything. I think a lot of people, when they go to live events, and I've noticed this, ISSN was like this, it's nice to see people out and about again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's going to be a couple of years of just repair after just the forest burn that happened during COVID, burn everything down. Now it's got to grow back a little bit,
Well, until last year, there was 2 years that Swiss was just online, and then Dave brought it here because they just couldn't get into Canada, so they put it online.
I so dislike the online crap. I won't even name which one. It was a really good conference with world-class people, but kind of like what Jarrell said, I felt like I was shackled to my keyboard for 8 hours a day, and I needed to get my CEUs for my nutrition license, and so I was a good boy and I did it, but I just can't say it was super enjoyable. It's just not the same.
It's
the
too
hallway
easy to get
conversation.
distracted when you're in your own environment. It's easy to get pulled away from your screen.
It is. You get too comfortable.
Whereas when you're here, you're in the atmosphere. So, yeah.
There's really something to be said for that. I've always said that's true of the classroom as well. Like, you go to a class, you say, why don't just take an online class or a MOOC or do one of these things? Because putting on appropriate clothing, going to the classroom, being prepared, it gets you, like you said, it's that environment, it's that mindset where you're like, okay, it's go time, and I'm not going to fall asleep.
I'd have failed. I would not have a master's degree if I was online classes. I wouldn't have done it. I went to class.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I did a couple of online classes. I taught online classes too, and I always do them asynchronously so people can listen whenever they want, because having to sit down and log in at a certain time, I don't know. And so you said they're recording stuff here too, so that's nice for the asynchronous thing. If you pay and you don't get to go to some simultaneous event, I mean, it's a good sign.
Yeah, that's the benefit about this one is you always have 4 talks going on at once. So there's many times I think that the average person would have 2 going on at once they want to hear.
Yeah.
So you don't have to I guess I'll just miss that. And,
right.
Like the second level, so just because I've been around for a while, it's like that second level knowledge that you, like someone like me going to these things would kind of want. That happens in those just either breakouts or where, because I'm always looking for something that makes me either look at something I'm already doing a different way. So I already have a practice and a system or whatever. So there's a lot of people there, in the regular seminar, that's almost for, I would even say first level type people. So the questions that they're going to ask in there, and that's going to take up all the time, is going to be stuff that's kind of, I would just say low hanging fruit a lot of times. So if you want to actually get to that next level stuff, it just happens in either the breakouts or catching up with somebody off, in the hallway or something like that. So that's always what kind of I like. And you end up, kind of going down some other spirals that way. Something that makes me ask, more questions or gives me a new question to answer or something like that. Yep. Or a new framework. That's hard to do in the seminar aspect, in the, sitting there and listening to their stuff, mostly because of how online marketing is. They put a lot of their stuff out there now. And then that's essentially their front facing info. And then getting to that next level is plus you'll get that kind of, nitty gritty stuff where they're yo, let me tell you the truth. I said some stuff up there, but let me tell you the real deal, whatever.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. The real advantage, I think, is you almost have to have the talks to plant seeds. Because if you're an intelligent person, creative, it's going to spark questions. It's going to spark, like you said, Jarrell, what's the angle? What could I be doing a little bit differently? But if you don't have the seed talks and then conversations, I mean, how many things come out of conversations that you're not going to get by watching some video or slideshow or something? You got to have those conversations to kind of that organically spark, maybe I should try this with my rehab, or, I never thought about that accessory movement. Maybe there's a variation on that, so for advanced people, I got to think it's actually way, way better, maybe even more so for the advanced people, to go to something like this where you can engage. That's what's going to make you, join the conversation and think about something, spark something, because you have a deep basis, you have a foundation, so you can understand what they're saying, and then it'll trigger something new. But I also wanted to talk about the concomitant sessions. I always think that's a good idea. ISSN this past year, they didn't even do that because I think they're in kind of a rebuilding mode. And for conferences that have less than 2,000 people, it shows interest when you can have simultaneous sessions like that. Right, yeah. Because otherwise everybody's in the same room every time, and if they're running tracks like that, big conferences like experimental biology, they do that kind of stuff where, oh my God, there's 20 different talks at any given time, because there's 15,000, 20,000 people at some of these things, but that's usually a strength. And the fact that if you missed something that you wanted to, you could go back, you could watch it later. Now, do you know, Phil, when do they put this stuff online? Is it the same evening or is it months
I
later?
think it's I think it's a day or two later. Because I know the guys, like, they're filming it, and I think they have to go in and crunch it tonight. Like last night, I was talking to them, they're like, oh, we'll be up till 2 a.m. and crunching things down as quick as they can. So I think it's within a day or two. So.
Okay. We're probably not going to have a full-length episode, but I do want to talk about a little bit, like, what's the eating and the lifting like? Is anybody eating a lot? I mean, is the food comes with it, I guess?
No, you got food here on site, and there's like a 2-hour lunch break and stuff like that. And then they also have like in this hotel, there's tons of stuff. Like I can walk right down the hall and they have special event food and things like that. So you walk up there and they have their normal list, and then there's like, this is the plate for the SWIS conference, and like chicken breast and broccoli, and they have other options for health-minded people.
Right. Yeah. The Easton area is so jam-packed with restaurants.
Oh, it's jam-packed, yeah. There's tons. And they give you a nice break. You get an hour and a half break for lunch, things like that. And then they have they've built it around networking. So it ends at 6, but then everybody moves to another room from 6 till 1 a.m. to network. So, and there's freaking podcasts going on in the hallways. I mean, like we're doing right now. There's stuff going on all over.
Yeah, right. Like we're doing right now.
Yeah, like it goes on. Like I got to get out here this evening, but I got to fly back overnight to coach a football game. But there's another one going on until 1 a.m. tonight, and it's nothing to go down and see. There's a table with Ed and everybody else at it, So it's just right down at the local restaurant. But so yeah, there's a lot of that.
Well, what about? Have you got any? Do you lift with Jim or Dave or anybody while you're in Ohio, or do you just not even get to?
Not on this one. Usually I go over to lead FTS when I come here. And Dave's good at opening that place up. Like he had an open deal. Part of the package deal for this one was you get a day over there. So they had a day over there on Thursday where people would come and lift with him. And then they get the 2 days here. So
that's cool.
Have to do that type of stuff. And yeah. And then, like I said, they have a room here that's just full of training equipment. So you can get hands-on stuff done. And then they got their equipment out in the halls too. So
there's some good gyms in the Columbus area, man.
Yeah.
I could see people building that into their own schedule and go lift somewhere. I mean, I trained at Mike Francois' gym, Metro Fitness. It's what I call like the old school, like almost ma and pa bodybuilding gym. I mean, it's big enough and there's plenty of cardio and all that kind of stuff, but it's the kind of stuff that I remember and that I like. And it's just cool to see someone like Mike Francois just tooling around on the gym floor,
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Columbus is pretty, Ohio has sort of that blue collar, hard work. And, we're kind of a bodybuilding and wrestling kind of state in a lot of ways. Football, Yep.
No, that was my night last night. So last night, my deal for this trip was going to, I was on the sidelines with Jim for their football game last night. So, and we got rained on for 2.5 hours while his team beat the other team 49-7. So it was good.
Oof.
But yeah, they went undefeated this season, so they're number 1 going in the playoffs.
Right.
But yeah, just seeing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ohio football is definitely different. So it's like a religion here. It's like Texas.
Oh man.
It's very serious.
And on Iron Radio, I don't usually talk much about football, but like if you and Mike are talking about it and Jarrell, I'm like, I don't know, I'm just kind of my head's just in a different space these days, but there's no doubt. I mean, people at work, no matter what, you're in a healthcare setting, education setting, whatever it is, they're talking about football and absolutely. All right. Any closing thoughts about SWIS this year or in general?
No, I might have more after today. This is only day 2, so it's the beginning of day 2, and I don't know, it's a good time. If you have a chance, I'd say come out. And my deal is, like we've talked about during the show, it's not so much for the talks. It's don't be afraid to get a hold of somebody in the hallway. And like Darrell said, that's where a lot of your nuggets come from, is after the talks, and let the talks spur your interest, and then know that these guys are out in the hall. And I think most of them enjoy being engaged with something a little more in depth than in their talk. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to come down. I mean, last year I was moving out of my apartment like the week before, and it was just chaos, you know. But yeah, this year it just crept up on me. I'm just like,
it came on me too. I didn't get my ticket till a week ago. I was like, oh God, I gotta go.
Oh,
so
yeah, maybe I should reach out to Ken and see if they want nutrition talks and stuff. I mean, I know they already do some of that, but
they got a whole room for it, Lonnie.
Yeah, you know, and it's only like a 2-hour drive for me, so there's no reason I shouldn't. I gotta stop being such a recluse, you know, freaking hermit. Okay, well, good stuff. Have fun. I know that's, you know, it's when it comes to the strength and fitness industry. I mean, that's the place to be. That's like ground zero, you know, when you think about all these names that are on this list. So if people want to go check out the Elite FTS website, the SWIS Symposium, that's where you go. I think the Elite FTS website is definitely the source.
Yep.
And it's good that Dave's kind of, you know, partnered in, it seems like now. So, all right, good stuff.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Iron Radio is accepting donations. If you like what we do, the professors, the scientists, the bodybuilding show promoters, the athletes themselves in powerlifting and bodybuilding, please consider making a donation or maybe buying something from the ironradio.org store. We also are accepting supporting members. So for $4 a month, which is frankly less than the bank sneaks out of your account in fees, you can step up and support a form of sort of public radio for the bodybuilding and powerlifting and strength community.
The Iron Radio podcast and all of the audio on ironradio.org is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, it's important to check with your physician. Also seek the help of registered dietitians, athletic trainers, and qualified exercise physiologists in order to make the progress that you need.